Diys-by-dar, get your gifts ready. It's time for the 2024 Christmas Charity Thrift Challenge, hosted by Margie from the Asking Spot. Take $20, see what you can get, and flip them for gifts. So here are my items. I purchased this for $3, and then this really unique looking vase for $5, a picture frame for $5, and then the last thing that I purchased was this big globe for $6, but it had a problem after I took the candle out. So I'm going to start on this frame. I'm removing all the staples so I can take this apart and see what I'm working with. Get that glass out, put it up so you do not break that, and then I'm ready to remove that back panel from the mat because I wanted to save this mat. I could still use it, but I knew I was going to have to change the color on it because it was kind of grayish looking. I am a Made by Marley brand ambassador, and I am going to be using those papers. They come 3 sheets in an envelope, and Made by Marley is on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. They have a lot of stockists in the US, but if you can't find them, just go to www.madebymarley.co.uk. So here is the guy. This is what I'm going to be using. Let's get this frame taken care of. I have cleaned it. Now I'm repairing it and fix the cracks or any divots that you see. And I'm just using Gorilla wood putty to do that. When it's dry, I took it out and sanded. Now I'm ready to prime it. I have a little bit of Boss primer left here, and I am just going to put one heavy coat on both sides of this frame, and that worked out well, and it dried great. Now, first mistake. I took my piece of decoupage paper, and I used a glue stick to put it down on my newly cut mat board. It would have really looked great if I didn't do anything else to it. It worked fine. It went on great. No wrinkles. It really looked nice. But what I did to it in a couple steps coming up really challenged me to find a fix on how I was going to fix it. So once I had that down, I went ahead and painted my mat frame with some Annie Sloan Scandinavian pink with the small roller because this really needed to be smooth. I did spray it with some matte clear Rust-Oleum. I have some Dixie Belle silk all-in-one paint in the color Cactus, and I am going to go ahead and give 2 coats to this frame on the back, 2 coats on the front, and I really like this paint for doing frames. You don't have to put a top coat on it. It levels nice and it looks really great. I had a little bit of a space that I needed to fill, so I took some ribbon, mistake number 2, and just put it in place first with a little bit of the glue stick and then hit it with some Modge Podge. The Modge Podge made it wrinkle up, and it looked a little bit like it was a piece of linen cloth. So I thought, all right, that's not so bad. Here is the next mistake, a big no-no. I put my matte decoupage paste over the top trying to mimic a painting like I usually do, and look what it did. So I waited for it to dry. It did go down, but I still had some issues. So I took some Annie Sloan clear wax and then some brown wax. And I am going to try and kind of scuff this up where some of the wrinkles still remain and see if I can really get this to look old world and just make that part of this painting. And I put the tape on the outside because I did not want any of that wax to get on that ribbon that's going around that print. So I put the clear on first just to make sure I could get that brown off easier. So I just went really, really lightly, then smoothed it in with my fingers, and it picked up, and some of them grooves, and actually it came out pretty nice. So happy accident, I guess. I lucked out. To do this again, I would not use the glue stick to put that down on the mat board. I would use decoupage paste. So I'm getting this taped back down to the mat board, and it looks really nice. I am liking it a whole lot. I'm going to get it back in the frame with my poinsettia, which is from Amazon, under $40, well worth it. It does work like a stapler. So I kind of tip it on an angle, then that way I have a little more tension to push the points down to hold that picture in place better. But this is well worth it if you are going to be doing pictures. Now I took my 2 waxes again and I did my frame, and this piece is complete. I am ready for my next project, this crazy vase. I have a Redesign by Prima mold, and I'm going to be using air dry clay. So you always want to prep your mold. So lightly dust some in that mold so your air dry clay will come out easier. I'm using DOS. I'm going to work this clay a bit and then put it into the shape of my mold. And I start at one end and I press and push forward slightly. Press down firmly, press forward slightly. And when I get to the end, I have a somewhat dull knife that I am going to use to trim this. Start in the middle to trim. Get that knife flat with your mold and then trim that off. Now, I'm going to take this out, just bend it up and push on the back and just keep bending and pushing on the back. It should fall out relatively easy for you. If you have any problems when you get to the very end, just use your fingers and help that pop out of there. So I did put this on a piece of plastic so I could flip it over easily, so I can put my Quick and Thick tight bond glue. This glues everything, glass, ceramic, fabric. I'm going to put a line of that glue on the back of this, and I have a stick and I am just going to spread it out evenly, making sure that I go over all of the edges so they will glue down correctly. Now I flipped that, and this is going to be a slidey one. I tried to get it in place and I needed the help with a few pieces of tape, and I'm cleaning up the glue a little bit there, but I had to add some tape to hold it in place. And that was how that went for all the other ones as well. But when I got done, this is what I ended up with. And I am liking that so far. So we'll get on to the next stage of this, which is painting with Slick Stick. This is a bonding primer from Dixie Belle. Once dry, I took some Annie Sloan Florence and painted all my moldings in that color. Now I have some Dixie Belle and chocolate, a chalk paint. I really wanted coffee bean, works a lot better with this, but I didn't have any. So I just went ahead and I used this chocolate, and it came out just as fine as if I had the coffee bean. So there's the 2 colors on there. I'm ready for the next portion of this. Some patina paint, Dixie Belle, bronze and copper on a sponge, mixed together, and just sponge that all on there on all of your brown areas. In the areas that you can't get in with the sponge, just take kind of a rough ended brush that's been used a lot and pounce it in those other areas. So from that point, I'm taking my Florence again, and I have a crunched up piece of paper bag, and I am dabbing some of that Florence all over this vase where I want it to shine through my last coat. Now I'm going back with the patina paints again with a small piece of paper just to even that out a bit so it looks a lot more cohesive. Next up, I am going to be taking some folk art paints that are iridescent in color. I started with purple, and then I have some Capri Pink and Annie Sloan. And I'm starting to paint the designs. I use some iridescent green, some iridescent purple over everything. But I'm still not done. I did spray my painted areas with a little bit of matte sealer because I didn't want the paint to lift. So now I have some brown wax and I'm going back and I'm getting in all the little creases and divots, top to bottom, everything. Then I'm going to wipe that all off. This Dixie Belle decorative wax is water-based, so in a couple days it will be dry and I can give it the finishing touch with my liquid leaf gold. And I am just going to lightly brush that on my moldings. And this stuff does have warnings with it, so be careful and read the directions. But I have a stencil brush and I am just lightly brushing on the top of my moldings just to give it a little more bling bling. And I think there's the comparison of regular and the gold. I like it better with the gold on myself. Okay, that project is done. We are on to the last two. I am fussy cutting. What is fussy cutting? That means you are cutting it right up to the line, the best that you can with your design, whether you have a flat surface or not. So here are some of the designs that I am going to use. I could not get that wax out. It was between two pieces of glass. So let's get the slick stick out and I'm going to paint this little candle holder with the slick stick. And I also did cover it with some polyacrylic as well. I'm going to clean this glass with some alcohol, make sure it's dry. Then I have this is an IOD, a crackle stamp, and I'm going to use some Stays On ink because this stuff will stay on glass, ceramic. It will not come off once it's dry. So this is my choice for stamping ink. I'm going to try to get as much crackle in different areas as I can with this stamp. It's a little difficult to get inside this one because the shape is like an hourglass, but this was what I was going for. You can see all that little crackle in there and down on the base. One last thing, I'm taking some patina with a big old fluffy looking brush and I'm just putting it down around where that glass cup meets the container at the bottom. So you cannot see any of that red from that glass. Here are all my fussy cut pieces. And, oh, another mistake. Do not spray your fussy cut pieces with water. Look what happens. They'll curl up. Don't spray them if you don't have to. I just had to uncurl it and put the paste on the top because this is a reverse decoupage. We want this to show. Now I have that piece of tape on there to help me line my Santas up so they're pretty much aligned top to bottom. I stick the very top on and it was quite a trick trying to smooth it out because this had such different angles on how you had to press it in. But eventually I did work my way to the bottom and from the center out and I did get them on. I'll go ahead and put another Santa on for you so you can see it a little bit better. There's my yellow line. I'm going to try to put them up there as best I can because as soon as you set it, that's it. You have to leave it there. Then I'm going to go ahead and just use my fingers and try to go from the center and work my way out. And also working with the curvature of this glass. Now I have my gold liquid leaf again, and I am going to use this and just around the top with a little piece of sponge and give my rim some nice gold look. Now I have green and red acrylic. I couldn't stamp anything on them, so I had to paint them. Holly berries and leaves. I have my Mod Podge. I am going to put that all the way around on my glass, all the way up to the top. And I would say don't put it real heavy. Now I have some Let's Resin Gold Mica powder, and I am going to put that in. And again, the shape was giving me a challenge. All this was doing was letting it fall on the bottom, so I had to tip it. And then I tried to kind of throw it in from there, and then in between rotating it around and letting that powder hit every area was what my goal was. And you can see a little bit of that glue. It's going to be white under there until this dries. So this mica powder, wear a respirator. I had mica powder all over my entire house. If you can do it outside, do it. You can see when it comes out, this stuff just flies. I think even if you have a furnace and it turns on, or air conditioning and it turns on, it's going to pick it up and let it fly. So close the door, go outside. All right. I have most of the heavy mica out, and I will let this set to dry, and I am going to pick up and recoup the rest of that mica powder, because I really had to put a lot in there, but it gives such a great effect on your piece as well. Now the plan is that you take and you put some dishwasher safe Mod Podge on the inside. But as you can see, if I would have tried to brush that, it just was not going to work. You could see how that just is aerosoling and flying all over. So I had another thought. I was going to get something from Hobby Lobby that I thought might work with this a whole lot better. So I set this one aside, and I went ahead and I started with my last one, and I used Made by Marley, the pomegranate design. I'm cleaning the inside of that container out, and I am ready to go ahead and put my pomegranates on. Reverse decoupage, it goes on the front, remember, and get that all covered, and I will get my big one into place, and I will continue on my merry way and put all my little ones on. This was just going to be the pomegranates and the gold background. So I have it completed. The parts that are sticking out over the top, I'll hit with some sandpaper, but we are ready to go. I did do the liquid leaf around the top as well, and I had to clean the bottom up because there was all kinds of the dust on the bottom. You can put a piece of decoupage paper on the bottom if you want, or I could have just made it gold. I don't know. I just didn't. So the product that I did get from Hobby Lobby is this Mod Podge Ultra Matte Spray. I thought if I took this and lightly sprayed it first, even if it took 3 coats of spray, which it did, maybe that would put it into place so I could put that final layer on without the mica all coming off. I did have to clean the bottom out every time I sprayed this because the excess Mod Podge went all along the bottom. So I learned a lesson there. If I do this again, I'm just going to make the bottom gold as well. So there I go, cleaning it probably for the 3rd time and taking it close to the edge. Now I have my Mod Podge, and I'm ready to put that on top to bottom, and none of the mica powder came off. So this is definitely the way to do this. It gives you a really neat looking effect on glass. And I'm just going to go ahead and get this all the way around, and I am going to be finished with these 4 projects, which cost me $19. There they are when I started. Here they are now. I want to thank Margie from the Asking Spot for hosting this challenge. In my description, I will have a link of all of us wonderful artists that participated in this challenge. We have another challenge tomorrow. So, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow, Sunday, for the other challenge. Merry Christmas.